Daniel and Emily had been searching for the perfect house for months when they stumbled upon the old Victorian estate on the outskirts of town. The house had been abandoned for years, but it was beautifully tall, with intricate woodwork, stained glass windows, and an eerie charm that both unsettled and excited them. It just needs some love, Emily had said, running her fingers over the dust-covered banister. Daniel wasn't so sure. Something about the place made his skin crawl, but Emily was in love with it. And so, despite the warnings from the locals, the hushed whispers about the house's tragic past, they signed the papers and moved in. From the start, strange things happened. Lights flickered without explanation, and cold spots appeared even when the heating was on full blast. But what disturbed Emily the most was the locked door at the end of the second-floor hallway. It had no key, no handle, just a rusted old lock that refused to budge. Maybe it was a storage room, Daniel suggested, or something they didn't want anyone to find. Emily muttered. At night, she swore she could hear sounds coming from behind the door. Soft scratches, like fingernails dragging against wood. Daniel waved it off as the house settling. You're letting this place get to you. But she wasn't imagining it. One night, the scratching turned into knocking. A slow, deliberate tap-tap-tap. Emily sat up in bed, frozen. Then came a whisper, so faint she could barely make out the words, "Let me out." The next morning, she'd had enough. While Daniel was at work, she grabbed a crowbar and forced the door open. Dust swirled in the stale air. Inside was a nursery, untouched for years. The crib stood against the far wall, draped in cobwebs. A rocking chair sat in the corner, creaking slowly as if someone had just left it. Emily's heart pounded. Faded handprints, tiny, childlike, covered the walls. She stepped forward, her breath coming in shallow gasps. The air in the room felt thick, oppressive, like she was being watched. Then she saw it, a shape in the crib. Small. Motionless, a doll, its face cracked, its empty eye sockets staring up at her. The whispering returned, "Mama?" The chair rocked faster. A gust of air slammed the door shut behind her. Emily screamed. She grabbed the handle, but the door wouldn't budge. The whispering turned into frantic scratching, the walls vibrating with it. The doll in the crib twitched, then, silence, the door creaked open by itself. Emily bolted out of the room. That night, she told Daniel everything. He didn't believe her, not until he went upstairs and found nothing but a blank wall where the door had been. "I swear, it was here," Emily whispered. Daniel ran his hands along the wall. "There's nothing here, Em. Maybe you dreamed it." She didn't argue. But she knew the truth. The following nights were worse. The whispering returned, growing louder. The soft creaking of the rocking chair echoed through the house, and the scratching, it wasn't just behind the walls now. It was under the bed, inside the closet, behind every door she turned away from. One night, Emily woke to find the blankets pulled from her body. A shadow stood at the foot of the bed. Small. Watching, Daniel was sound asleep beside her. She couldn't move. Couldn't scream. The shadow took a step forward. A tiny, withered hand reached out. Then, nothing. Morning came, and the room was normal. But Emily wasn't. Dark circles lined her eyes, her skin pale and clammy. She didn't tell Daniel. He wouldn't believe her, but she knew she wasn't alone. One evening, Daniel worked late. Emily sat alone in the living room, listening. The scratching was everywhere now. Then, footsteps. Tiny, pattering footsteps running up the stairs. The door at the end of the hallway was back, and it was open. A soft giggle drifted out. Emily's body moved on its own, as if she were being pulled forward. She stepped into the room. The rocking chair was still. The crib was empty. Then, cold fingers wrapped around her wrist. Emily gasped. The whisper came again, "Found you." The door slammed shut. When Daniel came home, the house was silent. Emily was gone. He searched every room, every hallway. But the nursery was gone again. Just a blank wall where the door had been. Yet, every night after, he heard it, the slow creak of the rocking chair, the soft scratching in the walls, and a child's voice whispering, "Let me out."